Hi, my name is Jasmine Mendoza, and the topic I'm doing is domestic violence. I do want to start out with a disclaimer as the preceding videos and the topic that I'm talking about are too much to process, and the topic is sensitive also, so just a little disclaimer.
Emergency, patient breathing.
Um, my boyfriend is just beating me up.
You've been assaulted.
Yeah. He's blood everywhere. I think he's breaking my jaw. He's stabbed on my head and punching me.
What's your name, please? Come back to the phone. Hello?
Ambulance requesting assistance. They've got a female who's been stamped and kicked in the head.
On a daily basis, 20 people per minute are being abused and are in a case of domestic violence by a significant other or loved ones. Domestic violence comes in various and different forms such as control, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, intimidation, isolation, verbal, threats, blame, and using privilege, male privilege, economic abuse, and so many other more. What happens behind closed doors, especially COVID times, has put many victims in these situations and affects their daily lives. Domestic violence includes behaviors that physically harm, arouse fear, prevent a partner from doing what they wish, or force them to behave in ways they do not want. And domestic violence can be physical or psychological, and it can affect anyone of any age, gender, race, or sexual orientation. Domestic violence can traumatize a person and affects their daily lives in an unhealthy way. People who deal and experience domestic violence mostly do not heal, and they carry that with them, leaving them to several issues physically, mentally, and emotionally, and it leads to dangerous and unhealthy situations. They believe that's what they deserve, and it's not. And this is a type of behavior that is a learned behavior being taught from its own environment. And many people who experience or witness abuse growing up decide not to use those negative and hurtful ways of behaving in their own relationships. We intend to identify the links between COVID and domestic violence, expose the potential reasons behind an increase in domestic violence cases due to COVID, and people often ask why victims stay in a relationship, and reason being is fear, believing abuse is normal, fear of being outed, embarrassment, shame, low self-esteem, love, cultural, religious reasons, and lack of money and resources, and disability. Proposed solutions that I have is it is best to get it out there and speak on the issue and know the signs by reaching out information in school, work, or any place or setting. Next step is provide victims with a safety plan to get them out of the situation. And another solution is finding a way for victims to reach out within their local state organization. One last thing is victims with the same violence and trauma to encourage speaking out on their experience and help other victims know that they're not alone. And ways to reach out to victims are organizations and multiple specific situations that the victim is currently in. The best thing about these organizations is there are multiple in your local state that victims can be reached out to. Know that you're not alone in a situation, and it happens to most people on a daily basis. Domestic violence can be stopped, and it takes many victims' lives to be saved.
I know
We
your
can
mom is
make
a great baker,
the average
so
20
it should
victims
be good.
down to 0. What are your thoughts about the dangers of domestic violence? We need to talk about domestic violence in our communities. The more we talk about domestic violence, the more likely we build awareness, identify abuse behaviors, and we take action to prevent harm to people in our communities who may be family members, friends, neighbors, co-workers, anyone that we know. and we need to take action on it. How have you been dealing with your trauma? I deal with my trauma alone, because I always I always do my things alone, and I always keep myself busy and I try to help people out too, and I always just carry everything on the inside, to be honest. Have you ever been in a situation? If so, what type of abuse was it? I've been in mental abuse, emotional abuse, honestly, any type of abuse. How did you first recognize that you were in a domestic violence relationship? I recognized that I was in a domestic violence relationship because whatever I did had also connected to my trauma, like me being alone and dealing with it. And I realized when I was at my lowest and I didn't recognize my feelings, I didn't recognize anything. And now I became more aware of and researched, honestly, and I realized that I was in that situation.